This is Cinema Chat. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to Cinema Chat, the podcast where I chat about all things cinema. My name is Izzy, and today we are going back to the year 1952. This film is listed as the 5th greatest film of all time, according to the American Film Institute's list of the 100 greatest movies of all time. It is also claimed to be the best movie musical, earning $3.2 million domestic during its initial release. Today, we are talking about Singing in the Rain. This was my first ever time watching this film. I had never seen it before. I had heard some of the songs and seen some of the dance numbers before, but never actually knew what it was about, what the story was. As for musicals, I'm not a massive fan, but I appreciate them. My introduction to the movie musical, besides the classic Disney animations, was probably High School Musical. I grew up during the prime of this Disney Channel original movie and was obsessed with it. I would sing all the songs, I would do all the dances. It was a very fun movie to grow up with. And then I watched the 2007 Hairspray and fell in love with Zac Efron even more. So he had me hooked on these movies for a while. I was never a big Broadway nerd or anything. In high school, I had a lot of friends who were really into the Broadway shows and knowing all the songs. And I did do theater, so I was in a couple of musicals when I was in high school, which was really fun. But I never really got into it to that level. I've never even seen a Broadway show. So I'm not super into it, but I do still enjoy watching the movie versions of these adaptations. They become another genre that I would critique based on the elements of the film, like any other movie I watch. So just because it's a musical doesn't mean I automatically think I'm not going to like it. I still go in with the same mindset of any other movie. I don't really have a preference on musicals as long as it's a good story and executed well. I think the only gripe I have is when they just sing the whole time. I do like the in-between dialogue, those moments. I don't like it constantly just being singing and music. But other than that, I sometimes enjoy a musical from every now and then. I also grew up as a ballet and tap dancer. I've been dancing since the age of 3, and I have such an admiration for the art. My dance teacher actually showed us clips from Singing in the Rain to educate us on the history of tap. I'll talk more about this in a little bit, but even though I've never seen the film until now, watching those routines as a kid brought me such joy. Now, just a reminder, I am going to be discussing the film in full detail, so there will be spoilers ahead for anybody who hasn't seen it, even though it's been out for over 50 years. And everything I share is going to be my own opinion. Singing in the Rain, the year is 1927. Silent film stars Don Lockwood and Lena Lamont are in the prime of their success when suddenly the talkies become all the rage. Determined to stay successful, the studio decides to make their next feature into a talking film, exploring the struggles of the transition during this time. With help from his longtime friend Cosmo and his love interest Kathy, Don seeks to find a way to turn his disastrous film into a musical hit. I absolutely loved the premise of this story. When I was in college, I took a course called The History of Film, and we had discussed this time period where movies transition from silent to what they called talkies. A lot of silent film stars weren't able to make the transition over because their voices didn't match the characters they were portraying, or they struggled to work with the new sound recording equipment. All of this is included in this film. During the scene when they first preview the dueling cavalier, Lena can't remember to talk directly into the mic, so her lines get cut off. The sound unsynchronizes from the video, causing the words to not match up with what the actors are saying. The whole time I was giggling because this is what movie making is all about. I really enjoyed this because it focuses on something that I'm passionate about and love learning, but at the same time, the jokes all land really well, and it made me smile. Even for someone who doesn't fully understand all of the film techniques or doesn't know the history, it does a great job of explaining how everything works and why it's important. I still think it holds up today because these same techniques are still used. Everything has to be coordinated to where the mic can pick up the actor's dialogue and everything is synced correctly. This is why we have slates. That's the clackerboard that has the scene and take number before the scene begins. The sound of the clack helps to sync up the sound with the visual. Sometimes it also has a timestamp on it that matches up with the camera. So once it clacks, it captures that timestamp so they know where to line up everything so that everything stays in sync. I also loved in college when we would do a slate and you always have to do the scene number, which is usually like 2A, but because we have to understand that it's A, you have to use a word. And I had one friend who always came up with the goofiest stuff. Usually it's scene 2 apple. And he would say 2 alfalfa. Just goofy stuff like that. So that was always really fun in college. And then the thing with mic positioning as well in college, we don't have the big film set. It's usually just a 4-people crew sometimes. And so we really had to get creative in where to place the mic. We always have to make sure it's not in frame, but can still pick up the dialogue really well. So we would have the boom operator is what they're called. We'd have them on the floor, under a table, on top of a table, just wherever we could get the mic to clearly pick up the dialogue and have them not be in frame. Another technique they show is when Kathy dubs her lines for Lena. Lena has a very squeaky voice. She sounds like this the whole time. And so it doesn't translate very well to audiences once she talks in the movies. It doesn't match the character she's been portraying. So they decide to use Kathy to dub her lines and sing for her. And they put all of that over the visual. This is something nowadays called ADR. Stands for Automated Dialogue Replacement. This is where the actor records their lines in a booth, and that is placed over the words being said in the visual. This is mostly used now if a line wasn't picked up properly in the mic or they decide they want it delivered differently. Another example is if they decide they like a certain shot angle, but the person didn't say their line in that shot, they can then go and add later. This mostly prevents them from having to reshoot the whole scene. It'll save them money. It's just easier to go in and do this. As somebody who loves film, it made the story more enjoyable and entertaining. I never knew exactly what this film was about, so once I learned more so what they were focusing on, I was so entertained. I absolutely loved it. I liked the comedic aspect of it, so the story just really nailed it for me. And like I said, I think it still translates well for other people who don't know that much about film because it kind of educates them as well in a really fun and comedic way. As a musical, it adds an extra layer to it. I do think the musical side doesn't fully align with everything happening in the story. I do think it sometimes seemed almost separate from what was going on. It almost seemed like, oh, here we can sing and put in this random number and all this. At the same time, though, I didn't care because the musical numbers were so good. They're so over the top. They're so well choreographed and produced and filmed that I just had to kind of throw that out of the window. I mean, it's something I'll still mention because I have to be critique, but but I still just I fell in love with it. I was enamored. I was locked in. It was just so fun. Gene Kelly plays the part of Dawn and is also one of the co-directors of the film. For anyone who doesn't know him, he is best known for integrating the dance styles of tap and ballet into the film world, choreographing and directing some of the best regarded musical films of the 40s and 50s, alongside his partner, Stanley Donen. He just had a way of capturing the dance form that translated so well onto the big screen. As a dancer myself, I loved how everything flowed so well together. The person performing on the screen becomes the center point and the camera has to follow them, which then allows the audience to fully focus on that performer. And that to me was just crafted so beautifully. It does create more of a performance aspect than observing a character dancing. And what I mean by that is the dancer on screen is actually performing in the same way as if an audience were actually there watching them, as if they were on a stage performing in front of people. The way everything is framed allows the viewer to see every movement as if they were actually there themselves. We see the full body of the performer, we see all of the motions and moments that they have on the screen. Nothing is cut out, and it just gives that same feeling as watching them perform right in front of you as if they were on a stage. This also causes them to intentionally break the fourth wall. And for anybody who doesn't know what that means, that is when the actor actually acknowledges the audience that is watching them, therefore breaking the illusion that they know they are there. This comes from theater. We have the fourth wall is the audience. So we have stage right, stage left, upstage. Those all have actual walls. And the fourth wall is the audience. Obviously, there's no real wall there. But as the actor is performing, of course, they pretend there is one. They don't show that there's an audience watching them. So when they do acknowledge the audience, that's breaking the fourth wall. Some films use this technique as a comedic aspect, but in this movie, it's used to enhance the musical numbers that are being performed. It's just so well done. It's very choreographed, and you even have to choreograph with the camera. The camera has to know exactly how to track the dancers, where they're going to be moving. So it's a lot of rehearsal, it's a lot of time, but it really pays off in this. And I think this is why Gene is so fantastic and credited so highly, because he really tried to make that transition of dance on a stage to dance on film really work, really make it seem like they know that they're performing for an audience, that they're performing for a theater. And it just works so well. I also really loved the integration of physical comedy. The Make 'em Laugh scene performed by Donald O'Connor is a true masterclass in dancing, singing, acting comedically with set pieces and props. The whole point of the song is to cheer up Dawn, but it also gives the audience a good laugh as well. He just goes for it, and it's just so fun, and I just enjoyed every moment of it. And this is something that doesn't really happen as much anymore. Physical comedy was big during silent films, especially because they didn't have lines to get jokes, so they had to use their bodies and expressions. Nowadays, some of the physical comedy is performed by a stunt person stepping in, and it just doesn't have the same effect that it used to. Since actors can't get hurt, they don't take as many risks anymore. They have to make sure they can make the movie, which is completely fair, because you do have to take care of your body. You have to take care of yourself if you want to continue acting for a long time. I understand it, but it's so great to be able to go back and watch the people who actually really committed, really wanted to do it themselves, and really pushed for those comedic moments. Donald did state, though, that after performing the Make 'em Laugh scene, he was extremely exhausted and had bruises everywhere. And unfortunately, the take was unusable. And so they had to do it again. But he did it. He said, let's go. And he did it again. And he absolutely nailed it. And just that level of commitment is insane. And I'm not saying that performers need to hurt themselves for a good performance. All I'm saying is when somebody commits like that to a bit, it translates so well to the audience. It's really well received. So if any actors want to take a gamble and try it, I would love to see it. Now I want to talk about how much I appreciate the tap numbers in this movie. Growing up performing tap, I will admit I didn't always love it. I didn't always get it right away. I struggled, as one does when they're learning an art form. But now that I'm older, I have such an appreciation for it. And this film just makes it look so much fun. I love how much joy is displayed throughout each number. And it makes me smile. It makes me so happy. Unfortunately, I don't feel like tap is as showcased as it used to be. Granted, not every musical needs a big tap number, but I would love to see it more on a big screen motion picture. Again, it's just so much fun. It brings so much joy. It's so intricately beautiful. And I do think a lot of people just claim it as like boring or annoying. But when it's done really well, when it's done to this level of perfection, it's amazing. It's so, so hard to perform tap to that level that Gene and Donald do. And I don't think people fully realize that. So I would love if I could see it more. And again, I don't really watch Broadway shows or anything, so I don't really know how much tap is still in the theater world, but in the movie world, it's pretty much died out. You never see it. Mostly it's for the musical genre, but even the most recent movie musicals, I think the last time I saw tap in a movie theater was La La Land. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I definitely say it's one that everyone should watch at least once. For people who don't like musicals, I would still say to give it a chance because it's still so comedic and the story's just really well done. I may be a little biased because it's a story about film and filmmaking, but it's still just done so well. It really does a good job of capturing that time. And the musical numbers are just beautiful and well choreographed and well done. This is definitely a classic that deserves its flowers and then some. Thank you all so much for listening. Please feel free to share this episode with anyone you know who may enjoy it. I always have the most fun making these episodes for you guys, so I'd really appreciate it if you would share it with somebody else. Next week, I'm going to the movie theater to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of La La Land. This film is one of my absolute favorites and is one that made me fall in love with movies, so I'm very excited to experience it again in the theater 10 years later. I will be sharing all of my thoughts on next week's episode, so be sure to check it out. If you would like to follow me online, I am at IzzyPog8, the number, on both Instagram and Twitter, at Living Izzily on TikTok, and at IzzyPog on Letterboxd. Shout out to my DJ as usual. Go give him a follow at Mike Afters on both Instagram and TikTok. And with that, a happy movie watching to you all. Bye.